Hey everyone.
Oh,
Uh, awesome. I think we are live now. Um, and great. Thank you everybody to take your time off and join us in this AAA developer panel discussion. Um, would love for the panelists to just do a brief round of introductions so that everybody knows who we are. Have obviously a bunch of very, very interesting topics, and would love the audience would love to hear from each of you on what you're seeing, what the latest trends are, and so on and so forth. Given that all of you all are at the vantage point that you are at, so it would be great. Maybe we can start with Samir if you want to go first, and then we'll do a round robin.
Sure, Vibhav. You wanted an introduction?
Yes, yes.
Right. I'm the business director for Southeast Asia and South Asia for Epic Games, and we look after the Unreal Engine and the ecosystem of developer tools that Epic Games creates for the indie and a whole bunch of enterprises around the region.
Awesome. Thanks, Samir. Lennon, you want to go next?
absolutely. Thank you. Hi, I'm Lennon Arcaro. I'm the SVP of Business Development for Tilting Point. We're a leading free-to-play publisher for independent developers.
Great. Thanks, Lennon. Nitin, over to you. Looks like Nitin might be having some internet difficulty. So meanwhile, Yang, if you want to go, we can come back to Nitin right after.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Yang from Sega of Japan. I'm leading a business development department at Sega of Japan, mainly focused on the Asian territories. And it's my great pleasure to have the chance to talk to everyone here. I'm humble to everyone's insights of the gaming industry. Thank you.
Thanks, Yang. Nitin, over to you. Nitin, can you hear us? Looks like you might be frozen. I don't know if you can.
Okay, Vaibhav, I can hear you, right? So am I audible?
Yes, now you are.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I had like some network issues. Thank you very much for the invitation. Right, so looking forward to the discussion today. I myself, Nitin Goel, represent Gameloft and had been the country manager for Gameloft, taking care of the Indian subcontinent for the last 4.5 years, and driving the business operations for them in the region. Looking forward to have this discussion today with all of you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So all right. So the first topic is would love to just give some data points around the Indian market, right? And what we are seeing. So the gaming industry in India is probably going to get to about $4 billion in value by 2025, and 40% of hardcore mobile gamers are paying for their games with an average of 230 rupees per month, right? And this is the latest report by IMAI. It also shows that the organic growth of digital games, mobile app downloads has grown by 50% and engagement up by 20%, right? And overall, from a macro perspective as well, India is obviously no secret that we're home to over 430 million mobile gamers. And gaming kind of dominates the sector, but at the same time, we're also seeing the audience's preference and users' preference evolve over time. So, would love to understand, and I think this would be an interesting topic. See, what is it that you're seeing in terms of the future? Is it going to be what kind of games, what kind of genres, what kind of gameplays are you seeing, and you think will do well in the future? I can see Samir nodding your head. So would love to maybe start from you.
I was just acknowledging your question, but happy to take the bait. I think generally what we are seeing at least is the rise of the mobile AA and the mobile AAA. I think that's sort of like, India and this region has been known for being casual and hyper casual. And we're seeing sort of like this growth in that title between mid-core to hardcore, especially on mobile. And it's evident in the form of the kind of games I think that devices are capable of supporting. And going forward, I do believe that, as, hardware install bases at the high end, whether it's PC or console come up, mobile will be the fertile ground in which a lot of these dev titles are brewed, and then it'll enable the first generation of sort of crossplay.
Awesome. Cool. Lennon, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Samir that the rise of the AA games from mobile enabling crossplay is certainly coming with a lot of momentum. At the same time, we see a tremendous amount of installs still being generated in India, in particular. I think I read yesterday something around 20% of almost all global installs are coming out of the region, and so it's very, very interesting to see some new gameplay types. On the flip side of that, which we're identifying as hybrid casuals, which are born from the hyper casual space of very quick to install, very quick to play, but still have a strong enough background in meta to provide good IAP revenue as well. So it's a new category that we're watching very, very closely.
Awesome. Thanks, Lennon, for that. Yang, you want to take the question, give your thoughts as well?
Sure. Well, as just Nano mentioned, I also think mobile platform is playing a huge influence in the industry, but I think eventually, probably in the next 3-5 years, the cross-platform is going to be another trend because more and more users get their play habit. So I think content is always plays a bigger role in the coming next 3-5 years. Yeah, I think the developer is playing a bigger role in the market. That's what I'm thinking.
Awesome, thank you. Nitin, would you like to take the question as well?
Sure. It's basically for us, the primary thing that we identified, definitely mobile gaming is the one which has really taken off, and eventually the evolution of the gamers is going to happen wherein the cross-platform gaming, as everybody else mentioned, is going to be the next round of evolution which has happened. And I would say it's basically one thing that we are pretty much bullish about is the cloud gaming, which is going to evolve significantly and could be the next round of disruption which would come across in the Indian market, knowing the fact that the kind of factors which were limiting with respect to the growth of the console and the PC in the Indian market had been more or less like stagnant, right? So all those factors are going to be addressed through the launch of the cloud gaming, and that's where you would have people getting the experience of the AAA titles onto their mobile devices or on their smart TVs going forward in future. And this is where we are pretty much bullish about the prospect of the evolution, which is likely to come across over the next 2-3 years with 5G coming in.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Nitin. All right. So now that we've sort of covered what we're, each of us are sort of seeing from a very top level, right? And just to add to what everybody said, I think from MPL's perspective as well, we're seeing sort of the same thing. Mobile's is obviously the most important part. We're also seeing all of the different trends that the panelists spoke about. Sort of same thing is playing out basis what we are seeing. We're also seeing that audience loves to sort of engage in slightly more complex and engaging games compared to what they did, say, several years ago. So just wanted to add that as well. But now that we have sort of looked at the overall, macro trends, in terms of game studios in itself, I think back in the day, several years ago, they were primarily focused on building out one genre. But sort of seeing that portfolio diversification is also tends to be a goal for some of these developers, right? So would love to sort of see how y'all are thinking about it. Maybe if you could start from Nitin, if you have any thoughts there, and then we'll I would love to hear other people's thoughts as well.
Yeah, sure. Basically, if you were to look from the game law perspective, I think that has been always the thought behind the kind of development that we have done on game law side. Right? So we have a very diverse portfolio all through, right? And primary premise behind that is the belief that we have that everybody is a gamer, right? And we always speak about like a 3-year-old kid going up to like a 70-year-old man. Everybody is playing games. Is just a genre of the games that they play are very different, and that's where I think we need to look into the various segments which exist in the market. And I believe every segment is significant in size, and we need to have the right product available for each of the segments. Right? Probably, right? So when we talk about gaming, we think of gaming in a very specific genre, which predominantly is visible more among the people, and it makes more of the news, rather, I would say. But I believe the aspect of looking into the multiple segments and having the content across for all those segments is an essential element that we at GameLoft strongly believes in. However, I said the aspect nowadays that we are actually focusing more on is basically building the cross-platform gaming experiences, considering the kind of challenges that you are actually witnessing on your side as a game developer on the mobile side, with plethora of game developers out there, shrinking margins, making it a bit challenging from the game developers' perspective. We see a lot of value with the cross-platform gaming experience that we can bring across, and that's where we are working on launching a lot of titles across as console first or the PC first, right? So which primarily otherwise is an organization we had been a mobile first. So that's like a difference in the strategy that we are adopting on our side.
Awesome. Thanks, Nitin. And just to clarify, when you say cross-platform, what are those kind of experiences, and how do you think that that's slightly different from, say, what it was a year or two ago?
Basically, we had been always focused on like the mobile gaming as an organization, right? And we had been having limited presence across on the console and the PC. Now, what we are actually going ahead on our side is basically introducing games as console first, PC as next destination, followed by adapting these games and making them available onto the mobile. And that's one of the visible trends, which is also out there in the market with some of the very successful games. And we are looking at adopting the similar kind of a strategy on our side in terms of building newer IPs on our side.
Thank you. Yang, would love to hear your thoughts as well. What portfolio diversification means, and why, or is that even a goal that developers should have, and does it make sense right now?
Sure. I think Sega as a foreign company, we still have a lot of things to learn in the market. But I think with more and more high quality games in the market, the gamers are getting more and more picky, I think, because they are no longer satisfied with only the hyper casual game. They are seeking for, they want to play more games with better graphics, with deeper depths, and especially they want to seek for more games with more drama, with more culture elements. So I think the challenge for developer is how can they handle this? How can they satisfy these customers with deeper contents?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Yang. So when you say more interesting content or drama, could you just double click a little bit and sort of talk through how you all think about it, and what this really means for game developers?
Sure. I think if you take an example of the West or Japan developed AAA titles, you will see a lot of story-driven games on the PC or on the console games, but that's not the trend in India, I think, because more and more people, that's a unique point of India market, because more and more people prefer to play with their friends. They are more socialized players. But I think socialization is a good thing, but for those real gamers, they're looking for something deeper. So when the most population of the gamers have been past that phase of the casual games, they are going to looking to these games with deeper contents, yes, with better game designs, but not only for free to play. Maybe, they will pay more or pay to earn. I think that's going to be the next trend of the gaming industry in the 5 years.
Awesome. That's going to be another topic that we will cover right after when we look at new monetization models, and I can see everybody smiling, so it's clearly something that everyone's watching out for. But since we're on the topic of diversification and focus on different genres, Lennon would love to hear your thoughts as well on that.
So we absolutely think that diversification is happening because progressively we're seeing consolidation in the market, right? And leading companies are wanting to get into areas where they don't have strength, and they're doing that through aggressive acquisition, something that we are also pursuing very, very much at Tilting Point. As a result of that, you're starting to see companies that were once very, very genre focused now having the ability to enter into certain other new segments with strength immediately. And so that's giving rise to new levels of competition, new network effects that are happening within those top companies. And so it's very important. Our approach is to have a satellite studio design where each of our studios have certain genre expertise. And then we lay into that by looking at excellent partners and developers out there who complement the expertise of each of those studios so that we're able to be strong in each one, understanding that game design monetization is going to be very, very different between a very casual or hyper casual title relative to like a AA or a AAA. Yang did mention something that I think is interesting, which is that there are also new models coming out there, and we're seeing more and more subscription plays, and that allows I think the entire market to start to explore new types of game design that is more natural to the typical console or PC environment where there's deeper storytelling because of the fact that the model is just so grossly different and not dependent on ad revenue or in-app purchase revenue.
Got it. And maybe if you could give an example of how the same subscription is changing the way game design is made. Like maybe if you could talk about a game or two in your portfolio, that would be awesome for the audience.
Okay, well, I would look to maybe a game like Star Trek Legends or Master Chef that we've just recently released on Apple Arcade, where we've taken some game design that is very, very traditional to the mobile space, either an RPG for Star Trek or a cooking game for Master Chef. But we've been able to eliminate some of the friction points that a lot of gamers face in a free-to-play model, right? And so the grind is removed, and gamers play through the experience, play through the story in ways that they're very familiar with in mobile, but now they're getting that experience entirely through frictionless and payment wall removed gameplay.
Awesome. Thanks, Lennon. Sami, over to you in terms of what you're seeing from your vantage point.
It's more of what I actually already spoke. When it comes to the local developer network, we are seeing a lot of dev shops becoming ambitious in terms of chasing games with larger story worlds, deeper narratives, in terms of just, I think, the world building, in terms of what they aspire for multiplayer experiences to be. We're seeing also sort of really good talent pods come together, working remotely around the region and learning from each other. But yeah, generally, I think, also it may also be, filtered as a lens, because UE is generally looked at for AA and AAA titles, and the vast swaths of what mobile in terms of hyper casual and casual don't really come to us as an engine. So my views obviously tilted a little more at that, but generally we're seeing a lot of game developers being ambitious in terms of their ability to want to build first on mobile and then hope that they can use the engine to upscale to other platforms, especially go cross-platform.
Awesome. And Sami, maybe if you could give a little bit of insight into how this is impacting, let's say, the Unreal roadmap, and what are areas of focus basis, what we have spoken. Are there specific areas where, we should expect more product features, and what those focus areas might be? That would be super helpful just to sort of see where
Sure,
the
sure.
industry is
I mean,
headed.
I think generally, if you look at sort of Epic's properties on publishing on mobile, Fortnite has been fairly successful on Android and other platforms before in the past, and we're already seeing sort of new titles such as the new Rocket League Swipe, which is due to release early next year. And we're already seeing sort of really great feedback on the mobile variants of it, which are coming out. And similarly, Apple Arcade has been a big sort of example in terms of the sheer number of titles that Unreal Engine based games are, in terms of the success that they're seeing on Apple Arcade, as well as in Android on the mid to high end devices. So, generally, I think the uniqueness about Epic has always been the ability to be both a publisher but also a software licensee. So when it comes to its own games, it's able to dog food the tools that it uses, and mobile has been a very core focus for a lot of those games that we have built out before we actually test them and then end up creating them for other folks in the ecosystem in terms of developers to use. So it's kind of good when you have in-house teams using it, so they understand what the limitations of the engine are, and then you're able to push code which democratizes it for other developers to also use it.
Awesome. Thanks, Samir. So I think even from MPL's perspective, we work with a whole bunch of developers, and we see that each of our developers are actually pursuing various other genres, and the number of ideas at the table have grown multifold. So definitely very, very interesting time. Would love to switch gears a little bit and talk about monetization for the next half of the panel discussion, right? And I think that's the most interesting part with a lot of new trends, and I think each of those will probably merits its own time. But would love to maybe at the very top level understand how monetization has changed, and what y'all are seeing. Maybe Lennon, if you want to go first and kick it off, then we'll run through other people's thoughts as well. And I know we will talk about play to earn. Maybe we'll touch upon that subsequently as well.
Okay, I won't start with pay to earn, and we'll get there on in a later time. But in monetization in general, we're seeing a lot of shift in the market. With increasing movement towards an ad revenue based models, where installs and CPIs are continuing to rise in tandem. The net effects of IDFA and how that's affected also our ability to buy is resulting in having to be more creative with regards to how we manage our IAPs. And so we're always in a position of following the trends in terms of how monetization is shifting. But it's very, very clear that network effect and having a large audience that you can speak to is increasingly valuable to the overall developer and publisher.
Awesome. And could you give a little bit of insight into what you mean by network effect and how that's aiding / not aiding these games?
Well, with larger networks and larger MAU and DAU bases, it becomes much more compelling for the publisher and for the developer to understand their audience and to be able to move users around once they've acquired them, because of the fact that there's more nuance in the acquisition than there was, let's say, pre-changes to IDFA. So as a result of that, it's the larger the network and the larger you have control of your own data and understanding the data of your players, the more flexible you are in terms of being able to ensure that you're optimizing your monetization and that you're keeping your CPIs in check.
Awesome. Thanks, Lennon. Samir, from your standpoint, like how, with the change in monetization, does it have any impact on Epic and how, and specifically on Unreal, right? So is there anything that you're seeing, and is there any new focus areas for you?
I mean, there's, as you can imagine, a whole Cambrian explosion of monetization, which has come in with especially, play to earn. But if you look at sort of our own games, all of them are free to play and they aren't ad monetized. They all have, in-game purchase mechanism in order to kind of monetize on top of that. So if it comes, when it comes to our views on advertising, they're very limited because we don't really monetize with advertising at all. What we can say is that we do support developers across, whichever form of monetization that they choose to deploy on top of their games, and we are happy to kind of lend our tools and technology in order to support them.
Thank you. Yang, is there anything that you're seeing at your end in terms of how monetization is changing and how it's evolving?
Yeah, I think monetization is completely changed the game industry in the past maybe 5-10 years. As you can see, well, the game used to be you have to purchase premium game. Then it comes to hybrid of purchase season pass. If you want more, you can purchase DLCs. But now you even have a real money game. I think MPL is doing a very good job on that part. Yeah. So I think, well, the monetization is, I think, it's an art of operation because you need to make sure you're making money off it, but at the same time, you need to keep your customer satisfied. So it's really about balance, I think. But for India territories, I think the payment gateway is going to be key for the future because I'm sure how many people have the credit card. If they're under 18 and 16, they don't have the capability to pay like $10, $50 each month. So it really becomes how easy you can give the chance to the end users to have the chance to pay for the game. Yeah, and make it well balanced.
And is your focus more towards the premium games that users purchase, or is it more? Are you shifting towards in-app purchases? What's the thinking in Sega?
Well, Sega has been handling both PC, console, and mobile game at the same time. I think for mobile game, free to play is definitely the mainstream of the industry. So we're doing nothing special unlike the other publishers. Yeah, but we just want to make sure it's well balanced. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Nitin, would love to hear your thoughts as well.
On Gameloft front, right? So we have been focusing a lot on the advertising, and we have been investing massively in terms of building up the tools and technology around advertising, and that has seen a huge success for us out there in the market over the last 3-4 years, ever since we have started doing a lot of custom native pieces for the brands, which is very much well appreciated in the industry. And I believe, right, so the way the gaming industry is evolving with massive audience actually there on gaming, there's definite interest which is building up amongst the brands for making their presence felt through the gaming experiences. And besides that, right, so in-app purchase is the secondary aspect that we have always been, right? So, and that's like a primary revenue generator for us. I would say still about 70% of our revenue comes through the in-app purchases, and we continue to work on that particular subject. I think this has evolved reasonably good over the past 1 decade, and I always say, right, so the gaming industry, if I were to look from the mobile gaming perspective, was virtually nothing over a decade back, and today it's almost like $100 billion. And that has been affected because of the kind of monetization evolution which has happened in terms of the product. Besides the kind of support that we have been extended across to the Google and Apple in terms of great discovery of the content onto those particular platforms. So we continue to focus a lot with respect to that, and we are trying to build across the similar. We are experimenting with the similar approaches on the console and PC. We recently launched Shanghai as a free to play on console, and we are just experimenting and to figure out how it works across on the console. But yeah, it's a process which is iterative, I would say, on our side.
Awesome. Thank you, Nitin. Just to add to that, I think for us, a lot of the focus at MPL has been pay-to-play tournaments, which is really scaled, not just in India but across the world, and that's a new trend that's probably happened over the last 3-4 years, right? And in addition, we are also doing our own free-to-play games, and we have one game live, which is our pool game, and we're also seeing that in-app purchases as a market is also growing pretty fast in India. So I think with both of those, pretty tectonic shifts in terms of monetization for users, and particularly more so in the Indian market. Okay, so now let's move on to the hot topic of the day, which is play to earn, and maybe we could just first run through the overall macro trends that y'all are seeing, and then maybe deep dive into one or two particular areas. Samir, if you want to tee us off with play to earn and what you're seeing from your side, that would be great.
Yeah, I think for us, really, recently there was Tim put up a tweet saying that Epic Game Store would support, games which are looking at using the blockchain. And I think that's really the view, right? Is that, monetization really has been something that we don't govern in terms of how developers choose to employ it inside of a game loop or inside of just a overall game economy. So our view is that that is completely the developer's prerogative. What we can help with is obviously the tools themselves, and which is they are available for free. And if you're a game developer under the publishing license, we share in 5% of gross above $1 million in revenue, regardless of which form of monetization, whether it's advertising or subscription, or if there's other forms of monetization as well. So really, that's sort of our view on it. Is that, I mean, from a region perspective, we are seeing a lot of companies building out the equivalents of the local equivalents of Axie, or steeped in sort of using Unreal Engine, or sometimes even just pure browser based ones which use other sides of our tools like Epic Online Services, but not the engine itself. So from that perspective, we're seeing a really good variety of companies and a very wide variety of them deploying such game economic mechanisms. But that's sort of like our personal view, our sort of company view on that is that, as Tim put it out, that we're happy to support distributing them on EGS.
And Samir, is there anything particular on the Unreal Engine that is needed to support blockchain, or is it agnostic to how the games monetize? Or in other words, are there any specific tools that or features that you've built within the engine that makes it easier for game developers to build the play to earn mechanic?
We haven't seen any requests so far come to us for any special, plugins or tools which have to integrate with any of the existing sort of blockchain mechanisms. So I mean, the point is that it would probably have bubbled up to our teams locally if we had seen it, but we haven't seen anybody come out with a request so far. It does seem that they are fairly complementary and you can easily integrate with it. A lot of the stuff that UE is used for is asset creation, environment creation, and generally using it to build the game itself. The economic part of it is really something which is integrated by looking at whatever blockchain it is that the developer wants to integrate. But it doesn't seem so far that we have been given requests for special tool sets or integrations into any of those SDKs.
Cool. Thank you. Lennon, you want to go next on what your thoughts are on the play to earn piece?
So we definitely see play to earn as being a long-term sustainable model in the gaming space in general. When you look at how it lines up well with experiences that are already out there and the nature of players playing free to play, and what motivates them to continue playing, the leveling up, the deep metas, all of that fits very, very well in an environment where the owner, the gamer is now an owner of the assets and ideally the NFTs that come out of it. That being said, the space is still very, very nascent, but winter is coming, to quote our favorite Game of Thrones, but it may actually be more like a summer in this particular case, because it certainly feels very, very warm under the heat of all the investment that's happening out there right now. And so when we think about where the developers are today, there's tremendous amounts of technical debt, and there's a lot of experiences that live only exclusively on the web. In fact, the vast majority are exclusively on the web, and haven't made their way to mobile yet. And so when we talk about the influx, and what we think about as the influx is really when the developer community in the next generation or two of great pay to earn games start coming to the table, are also able to bring those experiences to mobile devices and beyond just mobile web. We think that there's going to be some real creative and innovative spaces that are going to rise as a result. And we want to be ready for all of those partners who are going to need help along the way.
Awesome. And Lennon, just to double click on the first part that you said, it's the same hyper casual user who might also move up to the play to earn experience. Are you also seeing new kinds of customers come who might come and play to earn, or do you think it's just the set of users that currently play will continue to just evolve into a play to earn user?
Yeah, so I don't think it's casual only. I do think it's very much mobile specific, because the experience is very similar. And if we can attract a good portion of the mobile audience, I think we'll have a lot of gamers on our hands to deal with. But right now, the nature of getting into a game and playing and being incentivized to level it up, and that exists, very, very much in the mid-core and to some extent even hardcore spaces. So you see it just as much on a game like Witcher on console as you do in some great RPG titles on mobile. And so gamers tend to be very, very incentivized to invest a lot of their time and effort into improving and increasing and reaching new goals. And when each of those goals are met with rewards that you can maintain, share, show, and own, you start to find yourself in a position where we think that the gamers are going to just naturally move in that direction, because it will feel natural.
Yeah, and the other question, perhaps more pertaining to you, since you work with so many different game developers, are you seeing the same game developers building play to earn experiences, or are you seeing newer studios coming up which are exclusively play to earn studios?
We think it's going to be a mix of both. Today, it's probably newer studios. But just like we're all having this conversation here and smiling about the topic, I would assume that existing and incumbent studios are looking at it just as much. And so, when we look through the news, we see all of the major AAA players on the console space kind of getting behind it already, and the mobile players are following in suit. And it would not surprise us at all to find ourselves in 6 months with a lot of mobile developers, indie studios, who are thinking about their next projects in different ways.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Lennon. Over to you, Nitin. What are you seeing on the play to earn side, and what are your overall views on how the space will evolve?
Yeah, definitely, right. So if I look from the Gameloft perspective, one of the key challenges that we witness on our side is the shrinking margins. And there are definitely areas that we can constantly keep looking at, which can be the new ways wherein they can help in terms of monetization. And we surely believe, right, so there are two areas that we need to look into. One is as to how do we keep users more engaged onto our games. And this is one area wherein, as Len mentioned, right, so wherein we reward the users as they stay onto the game, and basically besides that, right, so we are also looking at the space in terms of we are just evaluating, rather I would say, with respect to with the blockchain technology and the associated NFT element to it, right? So whether that can be something which we can also be exploring on our side. So we had done something on this subject, right? So with respect to A9, but it was a very limited exposure on our side. Yeah, it's an area which is still being evaluated on our side. I wouldn't say that we are just completely lapped onto it. We are evaluating it. But as an organization, always looking for the newer opportunities of monetization, and we definitely see interest in this.
And is the general viewpoint that it's a little frothy, so it's good to wait and watch and see if it's sustainable, or do you think that it's here to stay, and there is a pretty high conviction that that this is the Web 3.0 is the next big thing?
Basically, yes. It's not something that we have like a complete conviction around, but I would say there's always a level of circumspect approach to this, right? On our side, and we are, as I say, we are just looking at the trends as they are evolving, and that's how, as an organization, we pursue. So, keeping a close watch as the things are evolving in the industry. And adapting ourselves accordingly. I would not say that we are the ones who are going to be the ones driving this whole space. But yeah, I would rather say we would be more of the followers in this space.
Awesome. Thanks, Nitin. Yang, would love to hear more about what your thoughts are on the play to earn piece, and how you're viewing the space to evolve.
Sure. Yes, actually, I don't have much experience on this area because this is something new to us as well. But I do think this is a very interesting direction because I do think it really opened the door, especially for indie game developers, to have an optional business model to keep the studio running and making profit. And I think that's very important because, well, and from a user point of view, well, now you play to earn. The play to earn has proven that the market is keep growing, and the gamers are no longer playing games to kill time, but they can even make money out of it to make a life. So I think that's a wonderful thing because it's bringing more and more wider audiences who used to not maybe too familiar with gaming. So eventually, this keeps the community and keeps the gaming market growing. I think, yeah, the play to
Right.
earn do some contribution to the industry. I think. Sorry.
Sure. No, I was just going to ask, from Sega's perspective, on some of the, obviously popular games that you have, how easy would the transition to move to a play to earn be? Is it something that you'd have to build ground up, or is it something that, can easily be switched over to a play to earn mechanic? Or is it something that you just have to wait and watch, and it's too early to say?
Well, I think we don't have anything specific project to be announced that, hey, we are going full steam on the pay to earn because there are some legal related issues we need to clear. But we do focus on this area. We're trying to find out if there are any opportunities, maybe not only by Sega, but by collaborating with some partners, to approaching the Indian market. I think that's the stance we have for now.
Awesome. Thanks, Yang. All right, so just switching gears again, I think this is very, very interesting, and it's something that that we are seeing as well and keeping a close eye on. We definitely think that at the very least it's a very interesting trend, and as all of the panelists said, that it's pretty frothy out there right now, but one never knows how big this can get, and so definitely a very exciting and interesting space to watch out for. The last sort of topic that I had and wanted to get everybody's thoughts on is around esports, right? And that's the other trend that we have been closely watching out on. Just competitive gaming, esports, which sort of talks through some of the things that we've seen around, streaming becoming big and people playing some of these larger, FPS games and so on and so forth. So maybe would love to start with you, Samir, on this one, and maybe if you could talk through how, you all are supporting game developers that want to build out cool esports IPs, as well as support them on their I know that you all have the ability to spectate these games and things like that. So love to hear any trends that you're seeing there.
Sure. I mean, a lot of our sort of focus over here has been getting people to, use the engine to develop games indigenously in the region, which are mobile AA and AAA. But, outside of Unreal Engine, there's a really cool tool which I don't think gets as much attention as it deserves, which is Epic Online Services. It pretty much is the entire stack that Fortnite uses when it comes to player matchmaking, live communications. Live comms is free inside of it. Custom lobbies, leaderboards, pretty much all the things you need. And that said, it does have a nuance of having built for a battle royale genre, but a lot of its components are modular and it's engine independent, which means that you can plug it into any other. It's compatible with any other engine as well. And I think that's really been sort of a big boon for anybody looking to kind of build out these massive multiplayer experiences, which they can then use or create sort of the tools around for people to spectate in order to kind of, broadcast. Has really nice sort of social plugins as well, which enable sharing easily, regardless of which platform you're on. So, it's actually fully cross-platform, which means you could share clips with your social network or communicate with them, including right from screenshots to clips, video clips across whichever platform you would like, and has all sort of social integrations baked in. So, I mean, there are quite a few developers using it, a lot of them in Southeast Asia right now, and we hope to see a lot more in South Asia and out of India. But I think that's sort of like what I could look at as, a key component to enabling the idea of community building for the game. Which is, I guess, just one of the first steps towards competitive esports.
Cool. And maybe if you could give an example of one of your customers, it would be super helpful for perhaps the audience to go look at the power of
Sure. I mean,
your online services.
there's an excellent developer called Leon Sparks, led by KFC. He's quite a popular figure in the Malaysian ecosystem. Just if you Google them and get in touch with him, I think he'll be more than happy to just engage. And and if you don't want to bother him, just email us, and we will engage with our technical teams over here to help you out.
Thank you. Thanks, Amir. Lennon, over to you. Is there anything that y'all are seeing with respect to esports in general and competitive gameplays?
So on the esports side and competitive gaming in particular, we certainly think that there is a growing momentum around rewarded play for sure, which is close to esports and teetering on the line. It's as close as we get, really. We don't have any product that is in the traditional esport type of environment, but certainly when we look at rewarded gaming, we think that there's a lot of momentum there and a lot more to come in the space as developers and as audiences start finding new ways to compete and new ways to engage. It's only a matter of time before content becomes increasingly compelling into new genres and more audience goes that way.
Yeah, awesome. And if you could just double click for those who are not familiar with rewarded play, just so that they understand that a little better, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's this great company called MPL, and they run a platform in rewarded play where basically players play and compete against one another for real money prizes. There are other platforms out there, but certainly want to give you all as much plug as possible because you've done a great job so far in hosting all of us. So thank you. But it's really about the ability for gamers to play games in genres that they love, but against one another for cash rewards.
Thank you. Thanks, Len. Over to you, Yang. Is there anything that you're looking at with respect to esports, and how are you seeing the space evolve over time?
Sure, I think esports is definitely one of the most important division in the game industry, and I do think the esports have a really good fit for Indian market, especially for those territories with very high populations, because it gets more connected and get motivated, and also there are some connections with the pay to earn there's some similarity between the esports and play-to-earn business model. So I do think there's a bright future for this genre. The challenge is how can we make a good event while with a good operation and have a good organization to make everyone, the developer, the publisher, and the audiences fitting with each other perfectly. Yeah, and regulation.
And Yang, specifically with respect to Sega, are there certain titles that are more naturally geared towards esports? If you could share any light on that, that would be great.
Oh, sure. I think in Sega, one of the most famous esports game is called Puyo Puyo. It's a puzzle game. Yeah. We
Cool. Awesome.
do hope we have the chance to deliver that game to Indian market in the near future, if possible. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Yang. Nitin, over to you on any thoughts that you have with respect to esports.
Esports definitely is an area that we have been pursuing on our side for almost like 3-4 years now, I say, and we have been introducing it out there in the market as a bit different from how it's being projected across with the rest of the other game publishers. We look at it as a branded opportunity for partners to come in, right? So wherein there's a lot of native brand experience that we offer inside the game as we create those esports activations inside S1 and S1 8 as two major titles for us. And we have seen significant interest coming across with the brands on such kind of activations that we do. And we look forward to having more such partnerships going forward on our side. Surely it's one of the key areas which actually helps as a game developer as well in terms of building engagement and loyalty amongst its users, which actually eventually helps in terms of the monetization as well. And that's one of the areas that we see a lot of potential on our side. Having said that, right, so there is always a consternation while we locally had been looking at the kind of success that you guys have achieved on your side with the real money gaming aspect. But that's an area which is being evaluated within the Gameloft system, because that's something which is very new in terms of the way you can actually monetize. There are certain concerns being raised across, but yeah, we are hopeful, right, with more and more regulations coming into place, which would actually make things more transparent. Will enable publishers like us also to be the participant to this kind of monetization medium, which is more of like real money esports activations.
Awesome. Thanks, Nitin. From our perspective, obviously esports is really big on MPL, and more recently we have launched this feature called the streams, which you can see other people play. So very exciting area for us, and more to come there. I think we're sort of running out of time. I would love to have continued chatting with all of you all. Really thank you so much for your time. It's really been a pleasure to have this very insightful conversation. But as we wind up, if you have any closing remarks for this, then please do share. I will let whoever is ready to go first.
Thanks, Vibhav. Sorry, I have to jump on the other last panel of the day, but pleasure meeting you, Nitin, Lenin, Yang, and thank you, Vibhav, for hosting this. Really appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for having for spending the time with us.
Yeah, and thank you so much for hosting as well.
Thank you, Lenin.
Thanks, Vibhav.
Thank you.
Yeah,
all right.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.